Hello and welcome to MarTech Day 2021. We hope you are excited for this half-day event, virtual event, where we will focus on MarTech, of course. We have 5 interesting speakers lined up here today for you, and we will really hope you will enjoy this afternoon together with us here at Brightvision and the speakers. If you want to see the agenda more in detail, you can look in the handout section. But before I forget it, I will introduce myself. My name is Jacob Löwenbrand, and I'm the CEO of Brightvision. And I will be your main host here today. But it's not only me who will host this event. I will also have my co-host with me here today. So hello, Emily.
Hi, so my name is Emily and I'm a production leader here at Brightvision and I'm so excited to be here today. I'll be helping out coordinating the event here today and helping you with the questions that you have in the chat and the Q&A and also the technical stuff. So let's start off and warm up the chat box with some interactions.
Yes. So we try to have an interactive event here today. So great if you could see if you can find the chat in the right pane and also see if you can write in where you're located, where are you logging in from, which is always surprising as of today, as you know. Hi, Diederik. We're from Netherlands. That's great. Gothenburg. Awesome. We have Switzerland, Slovenia, Stockholm, Munich. Hello from Hong Kong. That's awesome. Romania, we have Copenhagen, Finland, Stockholm, Netherlands again. Awesome. We have people joining in from Manila. Oh, even Dublin. Awesome. Paris. That's so cool. Amsterdam. So great. I can see that you all found the chat. And hello from Ukraine as well. Great, Anton. So we are covering everywhere from Ireland to the right, to the left, to Hong Kong to the right, with some more centered around the Nordics and Holland, obviously, and so forth, and more countries. But everybody feel very welcome to today's afternoon and event. It will be so good to have you with us. Please use the chat for questions or comments or shout outs or just, being interactive with each other. Okay, why are we hosting this event? Very quickly, as an agency, we work with clients every day, and we see that, everybody is wondering how we should act and what to do and things like that. And especially an area that is going really, really quick today is the MarTech area in the B2B marketing space. There are multiple solutions going out, and we will hear a little bit from the MarTech landscape map founder, Scott Brinker, later on this afternoon. But he had closely monitored this space for 11 years. And if you have seen his map, it have formally exploded with solutions, categories, and new technology coming out in an even higher pace all the year. So that's why we're hosting this, to help each other and to learn from each other as a B2B marketing community, to see and learn from what are going on, how can we learn what's best practice and so forth. So hopefully we can learn and we can give each other insights and tips and ideas and tricks and things taking us forward. So with that, I think it's just a very quick note on who's arranging this event. So I'm CEO of Brightvision, and we're an agency based in Gothenburg, but working all over Europe, actually, with clients within the B2B tech space. So we're an industry specialist, so to say. And we do offer services within quite a big scope. We're a so-called full service agency. So we do everything from outbound to inbound and digital and ABM and all things around that, both from a strategic perspective, but also campaigns. And we do, of course, have a MarTech / RevOps practice within our company. which is actually one of the speakers here today. So that's great. And yeah, talking about that, we have a little offering here as an gift from us at Brightvision for if somebody is interested. So if you're a company working with HubSpot as your main marketing automation platform, and you would like a free workshop where we do discovery and give feedback on what's going to be able to optimize and set up better, and just giving you a really good run through and checking everything cost free, we offer 5 setups like this. It's about 20 hours of work from the agency side, so it's actually really something we do for real. So if you're interested in a workshop, sign up there and we will hand out 5 of them to the ones who are signing up the fastest. Awesome. We also have a small thing here, Emily.
So we will start a competition here. So we will have 3 questions, and for the person who answers correctly and the fastest, you will spin the wheel. And if you get a green one, you will have a thermos from Eva Solo. And if you get a white one in spin the wheel, you will win a beautiful umbrella. So I will show, here's the thermos.
Ooh.
And then we have the umbrella.
Which we are really good at here.
Okay, so let's start with the first question. Scott Brinker is one of today's speakers. What company is he the vice president platform ecosystem? And we'll also type the question here in the chat so you can see.
Okay, write the name in the right answer in the chat pane there, and you can win an umbrella. Yeah, it's on white, I think. So, what company does Scott Brinker work on? Woo!
Okay, so we have a winner here. Let's see, so it doesn't.
It's HubSpot.
Sanchez.
Yes, and the first one was Ivica Sanchez. Great! You will get an umbrella from Gothenburg.
Great. So we have a new question. Diederik Martens is also one of today's speakers. What's the name of the book he has written?
What's the name of Diederik's book? A great book, especially if you're interested in marketing automation. You should.
I can give. Exactly. Yay! Thank you.
Yay!
So Matthäus Schuschro, you will get an umbrella.
Yay! One of these nice looking umbrellas coming your way there. Awesome. And the last question, Emily, what's that?
Yeah. So we have our headquarters here in Gothenburg, and we wonder if you can tell us something that Gothenburg is known for. So tell us something that Gothenburg is known for.
What am I holding in my hand? Yeah.
Oh, so we have Peter here, and he said Liseberg, which is totally true. So, and here we have a lot of other great answers as well.
Everything there is right. Gothenburg is a rainy city where Volvo is headquartered, and we have an amusement park called Liseberg, but it's also raining a lot. So you will get an umbrella. Who was the first one here?
Yeah, Peter. So great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Peter, for being so quick around that. All righty. So today's agenda, you can find this agenda in the handout section up to the right, in the right pane. I won't go through it because our speakers will go through it themselves. So let's take a look.
Hi, everyone. I am Scott Brinker. I am the VP of Platform Ecosystem at HubSpot, the editor of the chiefmartech.com blog on marketing and technology, and the author of the best-selling book, Hacking Marketing. And I'm very excited to be here with you to be able to talk about the new rules of marketing technology and operations.
Hey everybody, this is Dan McGaw here. Super excited to see you join MarTech Day. I'm going to be talking about how you can use the ultimate tech stack to build and grow your business, and I can't wait to see you at the event. So make sure you join MarTech today and get in that event soon.
Hi, I'm Fredrik, MarTech lead at Brightvision. I look forward to seeing you at the MarTech Day, where I will explore what is revenue operations in the session Rise of RevOps. See you there.
Hi, I'm Brandee Sanders, Vice President of Marketing with Motive Retail, and I'm inviting you to join me to discuss ABM and tech solutions at MarTech Day 2021. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Hi, I'm Diederik Martens, founder and chief marketing technologist at Chapman, and I'll be speaking today at MarTech Day 2021. I'll be sharing my best practices, pitfalls, and the lessons learned on how to make MarTech work for you and your company, and I hope to see you in my session.
Great, and now we have some housekeeping rules. So today we will have a high tempo. We will have 5 presentations until 4:30, and you can log in and log off as many times as you want. And after the event, you will receive the recording by email. And feel free to comment on today's program in the chat. And the agenda can be found under handouts on your handout section. And the Q&A session, we will have one after each speaking session. So drop your questions at any time.
Awesome. So it's time to go. And our first speaker is, to kick off this event, is Diederik Martens. And as Diederik just said in the video there, he's the founder and CEO of Chapman, who's a result-driven, tech-savvy digital company. So he's really passionate about MarTech and the whole area here. So he even wrote a book about it, as we had a question around marketing automation untangled. And today he's here to speak around what does it take to improve your marketing automation game. With that, I'm so glad to have you with us here, Diederik. So take it away.
Yes, thank you, Jacob. Thank you for having me. Like I said, I'd like to share with you my best practices to make marketing automation and MarTech work. And as Jacob said, wrote a book about that, and it's about to be published. It's a new book, so go out and read it. And it all starts with today's world, and that is that customers expect us to be relevant now more than ever. And with Amazon doing near real-time drone deliveries, Netflix predicting what we want to watch. And one thing to consider is, in order to be relevant, we must first understand. But the pandemic actually accelerated digital, and digital behavior is much easier to interpret, and therefore we can much better understand the needs of our customers and prospects today. However, this led to a data-driven decisions culture. For the past 10 years, we're looking at data for predictions and making decisions. But more and more people are thinking about the humanistic side of marketing. How can those two worlds exist together? And if you combine that with the strict laws, the ever-improving laws in privacy, in data retention, and that people want to store less and less data about themselves, how can we be relevant if we cannot store the data anymore? Thinking about third-party cookies, even first-party cookies. How are we going to deal with that? Well, it's actually marketing technology that enables you to do exactly that. Because if we cannot depend on historic data, we need to act in the moment. We need to be personal in real time. We need to hyper-personalize. And marketing technology, like Scott Brinker will tell you, it's readily available more and more at a more affordable price point, so anyone can use it. And it's your possibility to make that work. And this will be the key driver to tune your revenue engine moving forward. So you everyone dialed in this session, you are the marketing technology users. You are the business drivers of tomorrow. But in this well-known saying, a fool with a tool is still a fool. So you can have all the marketing technology in the world, but it doesn't equal success out of the box. What does it take to make it successful? There are just too many companies that want the results with shortcuts. But you cannot compete in a triathlon without the proper training. You need to put in the work to make this work. And these are the things that I would like to share with you today. And one of the things that I see when people start with marketing technology, when they start with marketing automation, is that they think, oh, I need the content, I need the technology, I need the processes, I need the skills. And they're like, oh, if one of those things isn't there, they are afraid to start. Another thing that I see is that they strive for perfection. They want to build the perfect result straight away. But that will create an unovercomable hill. You need to make sure that you layer things, that you build little things, that you start with a simple process, because you can only improve a process if there's one to begin with, even if it's just from A to B. Then you have a conversion rate from A to B. You have a time to conversion from A to B, and then you can form new hypotheses to improve that process. Maybe one of those hypotheses is that you need more granularity, that you need an A, B, C, D process. And in order to do that, you need to build something today that is not perfect yet, but in the future, you don't want to make sure that the thing that you built in the past is wasted. If that's what I learned at Quintic. If you build something today for 50 people in a fast growing company, it still needs to work with 500 people in 3-4 years. Your requirements today might be this high, but in 2 years from now, your requirements might be this high. So select the right technology straight away, but don't pick the simple technology. Don't pick the advanced technology. Pick a platform that can grow with you, that has the ability to put on the training wheels. And when your requirements rise, you can take off the training wheels and not have to re-implement a new technology. And that's what I call the scalable mindset. And that's the first thing that I want to give you to make marketing technology successful at your company. So you now know how to start and overcome that hill. But with all change, there is no change without resistance. So how do you overcome that initial resistance in your company? Well, a lot of it has to do with the communication and how you pitch innovation. A simple example could be that you want to pitch and create a new CRM field for, I don't know, rejection reason when you offer a lead to your sales. Sales will automatically think, a new field, more admin to do. But another way to pitch this is to say, hey, I'm sending a lot of leads to you. Some of them are bad and you're spending a lot of time on those bad leads. What if I stop sending those? Oh, that sounds like a good idea. But then I need to know which leads are bad so I can improve my processes and no longer send you the bad leads. Let's create a field where you can log the reason why these leads are bad. You see how that works? It's called apply what's in it for them. Think about your users. Think about the audience that will be working with your technologies. It's a well-known concept, and that's the second thing that I want to give you to make marketing technology succeed at your company. So you know how to start, you know how to overcome resistance, but how can you really turn the tide? How can you shift sentiment so that you don't have to push and overcome resistance anymore? Well, things that might be small to you might be big, for instance, for sales. Imagine something like, I think most marketing automation platforms allow you to create a report based on inferred IP web visits. You can send that daily to your sales reps, and they will see which interesting target companies visited your corporate website. To them, a very big deal. But to you, 5 minutes of work. Something simple like that can build alignment between marketing and sales. Another thing what you could use, for instance, is chat or conversational chat, where people already find the interesting things on your website, and then in real time you can connect them with the right sales subject matter expert at the company. You can take a screenshot of this later on, but there's a chat that you can try out on the website. And if you find the Easter egg, you get a chance to win a signed copy of the book. But that's something for later on. Let's move on. Another thing, a success is not a success until you've shared it. So whenever you have these small successes, share those successes throughout your company. And don't forget to share your failures as well. Make sure that if something doesn't work, you share that as well. In due time, things will change because all those success accumulations will align and create sentiment and a shift of sentiment and create alignment. And that's the third thing that I want to give you. Small success accumulation. That's the recipe for success. So you know how to start, you know how to overcome resistance, and then you know how to turn the tide. But as a result, people know how to find you. And what happens is, I think some of you that own a marketing platform who are on this meeting, you will know that people come up to you and say, hey, can you create this field for me? But realistically, who is more qualified to design the right solution? Well, I mean, the user does have some experience in the field, but you are the architect. So you need to investigate if the solution actually solves the challenge, and you need to unravel the reason why they want to have that new field. I could give you all kinds of cool examples on this, but that would take up too much time. But the idea is that you unravel and plow through, and that's what's called applying 5 times why. Again, a well-known concept. Google it, but it allows you to unravel a root cause and make sure that you design the right solution, the right process, the right architecture, and also prioritize it compared to other solutions. So I've given you a way to start, a way to how overcome resistance, a way to shift sentiment, and to make sure that when they find you, you prioritize and architect the right solutions. But still, some of you might still be struggling to achieve success. But how come? Well, it's all about balance. There's things like technology, processes, data, insights, change management. If one of them is out of balance, you might be struggling. And often this is in change management or in processes. And when you look at processes and change management, what I see happening a lot is what I call the toolbox trap. And the toolbox trap is that you implement a new technology or a new process, you train the people, and then magically think the world is going to change. But that's not the case. In order to change, there needs to be happening so much more. You need to help people leverage those new technologies and processes and co-create new things so that they come up with new ways of thinking. They start thinking out of the box, and that's when you get innovation. It's Harvard Business Review that said that digital transformation actually requires balancing 4 key talent areas. And those areas are not just technology. New technology means new processes that run different streams of new data. And most importantly, change management. You need to balance all 4 to be successful. But thinking about all of that, wouldn't it be nice if there was a recipe, a template for all the things that I've just shared? Well, after many years and many iterations, I came up with something that is called the CHAP loop. I also discuss it in the book. But the left wheel stands for strategy, the right one for the operations, and it's an infinite loop. So if you start in the middle and go down, you have new hypotheses for growth, for innovation. You then have to align your organization. You have to create business cases, pilots, and then you deploy something. And when you deploy something, what a lot of people forget is that even if it's something new, it's always replacing something old. So you're also migrating. And a lot of people are like completely tired and worn out when they finish the implementation and go live. But that's when things start. Then you need to leverage everything. And when you leverage everything, of course, you have your dashboards and your reports. That's all nice for the performance. But in the end, you want to look at success management and see how that hypothesis contributed to your business. And from that come new learnings, new hypotheses for the next CHAP loop to go through. And another thing, which is pretty important that I want to stress, is that Innovation, especially with marketing technology, is about taking steps ahead. And sometimes you trip, but as long as you take more steps forward than you fall, you're moving ahead. You're innovating. But the idea that you could innovate without mistakes is just absurd. So if a company doesn't have a failure accepting culture, it can never innovate. So make sure, for the leaders on the call, that you accept mistakes, because if people are afraid to make mistakes, your company will never innovate. So, rounding up, I shared with you how to apply the scalable mindset to get started with different types of marketing technology, including marketing automation, to apply what's in it for them, to overcome the resistance that comes with that, to share small success accumulation, to shift sentiment and turn the tide. I learned you how to ask 5 times why, to architect and prioritize the right solution, how to balance the 4 digital tree transformation talent areas, and to use the CHAP loop for continuous success and innovation, and stressing out that a transformation requires a failure accepting culture. And I really hope that these methods help you to become successful with marketing technology and marketing automation in the very near future. If you have more questions, you can use the Q&A on the side. We have a few minutes left for me to answer your questions. Also, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. If you have more questions, I'd be happy to also answer them after the event. So thank you so much for joining this session, and let's open up the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Diederik. That was so interesting to hear about your experiences in marketing automation and the whole journey here that you described. So if you have questions, please ask them in the chat pane here, and we can go over them. And we have one question here from Mike. How much time and money is worth investing into marketing automation 2022?
Well, that's a fair question. Well, depending on the business you're in, I believe that marketing automation is, let's say, the companies in every sector that are proficient in marketing automation are going to be the winners in that segment. So if you're not on marketing automation yet, I think 80% of B2B companies is already, or 80 or 90%. So if you want to invest in that, I would advise to, if you'd like to survive. But I don't think it's a one-time thing. This is a continuous investment in tuning your revenue engine.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear. One thing I thought about when you were presenting is that, do you have seen or made any mistakes yourself or on the client side that you have helped that have actually matured or forced you to make progress? Do you have any examples of that?
Yeah, well, yeah. I think when it comes to lead nurturing, I think I'm more of a technologist, from early days on, and that means that I was looking at way too mathematical. So, like I said, data-driven decisions versus humanistic marketing. So my nurture streams that I built early on were already data-driven. So like, I can make this little change and then the conversion rate goes up. But it was really mathematical in approach. And it missed the humanistic part, the human engagement in those nurture programs. And I think when I started to realize that, then engagement rates, went through the roof. And so, and of course, I made a few technical mistakes in the past as well. I think that's unovercomable, right? You need to innovate. So I tried a lot of things and I failed a lot of times.
Yeah, and that's, failure. I suppose that's what business research have realized the last 5-10 years, that failure is pretty much the prerequisite for success as well. So try to iterate, try again, set up a new thesis and push forward. So that's of course really interesting to hear. And we have another question here: how to most successfully balance and combine marketing automation and CRM systems. I suppose that might be a little bit about, should you use an integrated platform or do you prefer separate ones where you have lead or things like that? Yeah.
I have an opinion on that because we do a lot of native integrations as well as a lot of custom integrations and a lot of middleware integrations. I think when you have a very stable MarTech stack, that native integrations make it easier to get started without being IT dependent, right? So if you have an internal IT department, if you don't have that, and you need to outsource things, then a native integration might be really good for you. If you know that in the next 4 or 5 years, you're not going to switch CRM or switch marketing automation, a native integration might be perfect. But if you know that in due time, you're going to switch out your CRM system, or you're going to switch out your automation platform or any other technology, then a middleware solution where you do a hub and spoke kind of approach makes it easier to not overhaul and throw away a lot of things. Especially a lot of technologies, if you have a native integration, you're kind of married, and it's hard to unravel. So it really depends on the size of business, how IT savvy you are, and what your plans are for the upcoming years.
Great answer there. I always like when we can be a little bit, hands-on, and if we try to be vendor agnostics, and not only push the ones we're working with more or less on a daily basis. Which movers and shakers do you see in the marketing automation scene today? Any names, technology companies, or platforms that you especially would like to highlight for practitioning B2B marketeers to check out? And this is a player that might be on the rise and so on. Any names or any platforms?
Yeah, I think I mean, anyone in the enterprise knows the big few, right? You have Adobe's Marketo, there's the HubSpot, there's the Oracle Marketing Cloud, previously Eloqua. So these are kind of the enterprise players, I think, which offer solutions that you might need as an enterprise when it comes to like workspacing, partitioning, things like multiple scoring algorithms in parallel. If you need custom objects, if you need the high-end stuff. If you don't need that and you don't ever try to become an enterprise, you don't have any growth strategies, then there is so much technology out there. I think Scott Brinker in his latest chart, there are like 8,000 or 9,000 platforms right now. I mean, I'm a little bit older. I'm not old, but older, but in the marketing technology space. I hope. And so I think I'm from the from that group that knows the Big Ten, right, in this space. And the advantage is working with the Big Ten is that there's a lot of consultants, there's a lot of certified people out there. That means that there's a lot of knowledge, a lot of communities where knowledge is shared, a lot of free consulting on communities. So if you take an established vendor, the chances are that you can find solutions to your the challenges that you face along the way. And if you pick a tool that only has 5 customers, then the chances are that if you fail, you have nowhere to turn to. So that'll be my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, well, a tough question there, but that was really good answered. And as you say, yeah, I also think it depends on a little bit on how risk willing or how pragmatic you are as a buyer. If you're in an established business where low risk and established a player is of high value, a little bit playing into the technology adoption life cycle.
Yeah,
there. I think
I
that
also know a lot of companies that have the growth hacking mentality. I think the chat loop, if I look back, it's like a combination of growth hacking versus agile software development. Kind of mesh those two together, you get the chat loop. But so I also work with companies that do growth hacking, like, oh yes, let's use a Google form, and then they use some Zapier connection, and that's all nice to prove a point and to create the business case. But at some point you need to scale and make it robust, and especially for companies that want to go IPO or something. Someone that buys the company doesn't want to buy some strings and thingy kind of company. They want to buy a robust revenue engine. So at some point you need to build something that is robust and not strings strings attack. Yeah,
I think that's great. That's a really good conclusion there, Diederik, that if you're established. Let's go with some safer player there where there's a lot of consultants and a lot of knowledge in the market. If you're smaller and you want to scale and go fast, be more risk-taking, try a new player that might give you an upper hand advantage and so on. But there's a lot of things going on. So thank you so much for your time and explaining this for us. It was awesome. And I catch you on the flip side, Diederik.
Okay, thank you for having me, Jacob. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Okay, time to move on. We are kicking off our second speaker now, and that's actually my own colleague, Fredrik Gunnarsson, who's the MarTech team lead here at Brightvision. And Fredrik is working since 10, 11 years here at Brightvision. We're actually 21 years old as an agency, which I all think you're surprised to see since I'm looking so young. Just kidding. And but the last 10, 11 years, Fredrik have been here at Brightvision working with marketing technology in different capacities, and is now our MarTech team lead, and have a lot of experience on different platforms, especially HubSpot and so on, but have had a lot of in and outs in different platforms and so on. And he will share with us some insights and things going on in the RevOps space. So he have called his session here, The Rise of RevOps. And he is actually here live in Gothenburg studio. So thank you, Fredrik, to taking on this challenge. So let's go ahead.
Yes. Hi. So welcome to this session about RevOps, revenue operations. And thank you for joining us at the MarTech Day. So I'm very excited to introduce this topic for you. So 10 years ago, we at Brightvision evangelized the BDR and SDR roles for sales and marketing teams. The purpose of the BDR and the SDR was to increase efficiency for senior sales reps, as well as meeting the trend of more deals being closed over the phone or online. So this session is about revenue operations, or RevOps, which is also being driven by change and technology and trends. And also before the session here, I actually I second a lot of what Diederik talked about, and I think it's important to look back a bit to see what has happened. So I actually remembered a blog post from 2012, which I Googled up again. It was about a company who had bought a marketing automation platform, and they had issues. In the end, it didn't work out, and it was a very reflective post about why that happened. And also, I think it's a bit funny because I think it's a little bit of internet history, because on that blog post, both the founder of Marketo, John Miller, answered, as well as the co-founder of HubSpot. Also funny that he actually started Marketo 2005. This was 2012, where we talked about marketing automation as something that at least here in the Nordics and Europe, we implemented for the first time. I think some of you are getting quite experienced with marketing automation, but at that point, it was still very early on. And reading about those mistakes made, well, it's really interesting, because I think that we still see a lot of those mistakes today. The conclusion was that they used Marketo, I shouldn't say the name. It doesn't matter which platform, because they are working similar. In 2012, they called it an expensive hammer. The reason was that they used the platform and thought that the platform itself was the holy grail for them. But in reflection, he notes that they didn't have a process. So having the system without supporting any process was really not helping that much. They didn't have enough leads. They didn't create content. They didn't have the capacity for the staff. They had 1.5 people at marketing, and they tried to make Marketo work. The sales marketing alignment and lead recycling, they didn't have any process for customers. They only tried to find new leads, et cetera, et cetera. So there's still a lot of things valid today. So I think that's really interesting. And that is somewhat what the rise of RevOps is about. It's a proposition for but a solution for these issues. So I'm Fredrik, Innovation Manager and MarTech Team Lead at Brightvision. I've been working with marketing and sales for over 10 years, and I'm spending most of my times with clients doing transformations, working with processes and marketing technology. And I think it's a really exciting period for MarTech and this space because we can see a lot of change happening in the market. So the buying behavior and the buyer expectations are shifting because buyers today have better access to information and they have more ways of comparing vendors and services. And not the least, the competition today is global. So I think that the buyers demands us to get better and improve. So let's talk about some of the challenges for the marketing and sales teams. So first of all, alignment. So when we used to talk about pipeline, that used to mean the sales pipeline. But today, marketing, sales, customer success, or service, they are so integrated. So today we need to talk about an end-to-end pipeline where we need to collaborate. And these pipeline stages are getting more and more, or there are more steps in these pipelines than ever before. And we have a complex buyer's journey. We know that the buyer's journey is not from a straight line from start to finish. And we need to understand where the buyers are at. Competition. So our competition demands us to improve and being better at timing our activities and sending relevant messaging. So one of the big trends right now, for example, is personalization or one-to-one ABM marketing. It really requires us to be on point with messaging and timing. And also access to data and processes is really one of the major things here, as Diederik also mentioned. So we can clearly see that there is an increased focus on account-based marketing, existing customers, upsell and cross-sell, which requires information about those customers. But we can also see that access to data, to processes and alignment is what is really holding us back. So the question is if you have a leakage in your pipeline today and how much. So if we break it down into KPIs along that pipeline, each one of these steps might contribute to losses, which means that you're missing out on opportunities and deals. So if we could manage to drastically improve just one of these KPIs, that could lead to big opportunities in terms of new revenue. And there are two potential wins here, that either you can identify the weakest link, as mentioned, where the KPI where you have the most potential to improve, but also to second what Diederik said, achieve easy wins on many of these KPIs. So there's a famous case of an English bicycle team. So instead of solving one big problem, they solved a lot of small problems. It's called the 1% principle. And over time, that won them the Olympic gold. And I think for many companies, this starts with actually measuring and defining these KPIs. So I would recommend that as a first step. And you might be surprised by the numbers or what hides behind these numbers. So for example, how many of your contacts are actually a fit or how many of them are actually engaged. So apart from data and processes, we also have wasted time. So I think, and I'm pretty sure that you're spending a lot of time stuck in technical issues, meetings, jumping between different systems, tasks. So technology, new roles and alignment is a challenge for a lot of people, especially in marketing. There's a lot of things that we are doing and marketing from start is about doing a lot of activities. So being a small team is challenging. There's a lot of skills needed in today's digital marketing. So the additional tasks related to technology, data, alignment is very much a burden. And we're wasting a lot of time doing things that basically someone else should be doing. So because of technology, you have to learn new technologies. There's so many technology platforms today. There's marketing automation platforms, ABM platforms, there's ad platforms, there's CMS and web tools. CRM softwares, and there's integrations platforms, event platforms, spreadsheets. Basically, work today is quite complex. We have also seen new roles introduced the last 10 years, and we need to find a way to collaborate. So processes for collaboration is also today more complex. So basically what that means is that we need to reduce the friction. Especially, I'm talking about the friction between sales, marketing, customer success, but also the friction of technology holding us back, or the friction of access to data, that we're working with data in the marketing automation system, but we don't have access to the data in the CRM, or we don't have access to full data or complete or correct data. And also the friction of poorly working processes, trying to collaborate without processes, or trying to run marketing automation campaigns without processes. So how do we do this? And this is where revenue operations comes in. It's a new role. It's a role that is supposed to break down the silos and remove the friction between sales, marketing, and customer success through shared processes and data. So it's a role that is across borders of these departments. And exactly where to put this person in the organization map can vary, but it's supposed to work across borders. So oftentimes it's placed above these departments and under maybe a chief revenue officer or similar. An alternative explanation of the role is someone who orchestrates your marketing, sales, customer success process through automation, analysis, and reports. So basically, I think most people want to do the job that they're good at. It's really annoying to have technical issues or doing manual tasks that can be automated. So we're proposing that let sales do sales and let marketeers do marketing that they're really good at, and then hire someone as a RevOps to do the logistics. So an indication of this trend and this topic, I want to highlight HubSpot's most recent addition to the platform called Operations Hub. So the purpose is to empower better integrations of data and more powerful tools for automations. And from my perspective, the marketing automation platforms are very much becoming the true north for a lot of your data, especially for sales and marketing. So from our experience so far, and from looking at job boards online, here are some common descriptions for tasks for the RevOps role. Basically, this is a person that, one person or a team that has two important skills. One of them is the understanding of sales, marketing, and customer success, because they're working across teams. They're helping out to discover the needs and to audit and map these processes, alongside with a technical understanding, because a lot of the daily work will consist of creating workflows, setting up notifications, managing data quality or integrations, doing administration of the marketing automation system and CRM, acting as a support for these systems. And there's a lot of things that this person do, but really it's about trying to balance these two skills of the strategical part to be able to create these processes across the borders, but also being technical in order to implement and actually help out with these tasks. So let's have a look at what some examples of what they can actually do. So automations is one of the most powerful tools to have to remove unnecessary work. And looking back at the 1% principle, I think this is a good point that Diederik brought up as well. I think it's a good fit when it comes to automation, because some are looking for the solution or the holy grail. But in reality, the automations is built from a lot of small solutions and aggregated into solving big problems. So notifications, from our perspective, it's a really good way to increase insight and team collaborations. So having notifications for won deals or for owners of target accounts, of perhaps activities, new contacts, or maybe they visit a certain page on your website. Stalled deals or new leads, missing data for that matter. We all know that data quality today is key and really important. Weekly reports and more. So letting marketeers do marketing means that we have to supply good templates for them. We have to empower so they can spend their time on messaging and target audiences and so on. And we need to help them with good templates so they don't have to spend their days trying to tackle creating email templates or landing page templates. Lead scoring is a good fit for RevOps. It's something that you start out with small and then iterate and expand. I think it's a little bit like chess. You can learn the rules, which takes a little time, but then it takes a long time to master it. Also seconding what Diederik said about when you set things up, there's no silver bullet that just solves the problem for you. It's about setting it up, and then the next phase begins where you optimize and learn and iterate. So the analysis of everything you do and the reporting are really, really important. So data is today's goal, and we need to make sure that we have access to updated, relevant, and correct data. Too much of that data is today in silos, which we must change, and our RevOps can take ownership for the data and integrations and data quality. HubSpot, custom actions, where we can implement our own features, is a really deeply technological skill. It's that you can script your own features and functions, basically, and enrich data with external integrations, data formatting, or funny things such as you can flash the office lights if you have won a deal. Reporting and analysis is a really good fit for the RevOps role. There's so much insights, issues, and information hiding in your data. So I argue that time spent on building good reporting is a very good investment. And I think that there's a limit, for example, in HubSpot on how many reports you can build in the tool for professional and enterprise licenses. The limits are quite high, but I think there's a reason for them having the add-on of the extra reports, because building hundreds of reports is not something that is unusual. It's really so much benefit in order to create these tailored reports for different teams, for your ABM programs, and so on. There's so much data and so much to learn. And then there are some of the strategical parts. For example, the discovery. This is how we work at Brightvision with the discovery. That we first spend time on discovering needs and seeing how things look like, and then we make recommendations. Some things are must-dos in order to be successful. Others are should or could recommendations. Implementing those, analyzing them, and then starting over from scratch, or not from scratch, but starting over again. Playbooks, alignment between teams, and there's so much decisions and definitions and processes. So if you don't write them down clearly, if you don't share that across the teams, you're probably will have a hard time to implement this without a playbook or the definitions written down or the training connected to this. Some examples are the buyer personas, the lead definitions, buying stage definitions, how the lead handoffs are done, campaign planning, data requirements for contacts, companies, deals, etc., lead scoring models, customer journeys, integrations, and more. Audit and map processes, as mentioned. Data quality, we have mentioned that. Training and support. I think I can clearly show in the next slide why this is important. Asana, one of the major productive platforms online, research says that you spend 60% of your job doing work about work. And that is something that we can clearly see as well. If you're a small marketing team, there's so much to know. There's so much discussions across the teams where you don't have the processes. So I think without dealing with this issue, we're stuck in this swamp about doing stuff which we are not good at. And we really believe that marketeers should do marketing, sales should do sales, and let the RevOps take care of the logistics in between. So some key takeaways. Reduce friction. unleash the potential of data, automations, and processes. Let marketing do marketing, and let sales do sales. So that's it from me. If you have any questions, please write them in the chat. Also, you can send me an email or connect with me on LinkedIn if you have further questions or want to connect. And yeah, I think I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Fredrik. Awesome. Really interesting to hear about the RevOps. One business quote that came to my mind is that amateurs talk strategy while professionals talk logistics. I think that's a business quote that's become popular. I think it was some kind of military general who told it in the first place. But the RevOps is the logistics of the sales and marketing backbone, and that's so important. One question here is, maybe we should say that the opsification of every department have now reached sales and marketing. We have talked about DevOps, if you're familiar with development organizations, things like that, for a few years, and a lot of technology coming this way. Do you think how big should a company be in order to be having a return on investment on a RevOps role if you only hire one person, so to say? What's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I want to let this slide be there because I think the issue is quite big because there's so many things that you are doing, especially as a marketeer. But also we're seeing this issue with having alignment between marketing and sales. And sometimes it's just easier to have the third party doing that job because there will always be this issue with, is marketing trying to have it their way or is sales trying to have it their way? And as for the size of the companies, I think actually that's a really, really hard question. This is a fairly new role. I think it resonates a lot when I see how we work with our clients and working with a lot of clients and seeing the issues and the challenges. I think this role really aligns with that. And obviously, you have to be a certain size to hire a team, obviously for a bigger company. But there is this strategical part, and there is the operational or like the day-to-day work. I think ideally that is a team of probably 2 persons. If you're a smaller company, you can find a good person, or obviously from our point of view, you can let us help you out for a day in the week.
Yeah, and I think this is something we see in many roles, my own role including, that as managers and executives in different departments and different areas in a company spend a lot of time understanding which systems, which platforms, and which technologies is upcoming, or should we phase out, or should we try to reinvest in or take to the next level, or going from professional to enterprise. There's a lot of questions around this. So I can definitely see that there is a need for things like this in the marketing and sales area, of course, as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that something that, some analogies is that many companies are spending quite a budget on these platforms and systems together with the marketing teams. So if you're a team of 5 to 10 marketeers, you have an expensive system and platform. I think the key thing is to understand the leverage that you put on this team and this investment. So if your team is spending 60% on work stuff, I think the conclusion is that if you can spend a little bit more to increase the efficiency and the output of the current team and investments that you have. I told you in the start there about the reflection about their investment in the marketing automation platform. They didn't have the processes, they didn't have the content, etc. So I think that is what you need to get the value from your investment. It's the same thing if you do a lot of content, if you do a lot of stuff as a company, you don't put any money into ads, for example. That's the leverage because that's what gives you the audience to see that content. So you can invest a ton of money and time in content, but if you don't show it to anyone, I mean, you should probably do that.
Yeah, I agree. So being more efficient is the whole idea. So thank you so much, Fredrik.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and all the speakers will get an umbrella, so you can have one already now. Thank you so much, Fredrik. We are moving on in our agenda. Sorry about that. So the next speaker is Brandee Sanders. So good to have you with us, Brandee. Brandee is award-winning marketing technologist. But not only that, you're also VP Global Digital Data Analytics and Demand Gen Leader, who is helping a lot of companies going from scale-ups to IPOs and so on. And also thought leader, who have done a lot of things in collaboration with the G2, Reuters, New York Times, and NASDAQ, and so on. How is everything, Brandee? How are you?
I'm doing really great. And I got to tell you, these bios are getting out of control because it's an immediate imposter syndrome flare up every single time. And I love it. It's like, hey, it gets you in the door. But when people go through and read it like that, I'm like, but don't worry, I'm still sitting here doing budgets and like, having big talks about like, hey, there's an issue with this bit of content. So don't let it fool you. I'm still very much in the grit in the day-to-day of marketing, despite what this title is telling you. So yes, I am. I'm vice president of marketing with retail.
Yeah. Where are you calling from in today? Are you?
New York City. I'm East Coast based.
That's pretty good. It's not that early in that case.
No, not at all. I have a toddler, so early.
That's great. Okay, well, we're so happy to have you with us, Brandee. So take it away. We'll listen to your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. Like you mentioned, I've kind of run the gauntlet with marketing and data analytics and all these different things. And a big part of that, obviously, is ABM. I feel like I know it gets a lot of buzz, and we are going to give it even more. So we're going to talk tools and tech solutions for a successful ABM strategy. We've already gone through the bio, so I'm not going to take you through this glamour shot right here. But needless to say, I've been in the development end, on the back end where it's product based, on the data warehousing end. I've been in the product marketer seat. I've been in pure sales seat. I've kind of ran the gamut. And I think that actually informs what we're going to talk about today, because ABM, as I'm sure you're going to pick up from other speakers, does require organizational buy-in. And when we get started on asking for budget, and then also operative assistance, like you mentioned earlier with teams, I think it's going to be huge. So just please come into this if you're in marketing, if you're in demand gen or sales or any part of an organization that is part of driving revenue. I've probably sat to or been in your seat. So got to bring that relevance into it. So I start with a little story, which is I remember sitting across from someone who was trying to explain ABM to me, not realizing that I actually work in ABM, executed ABM and built ABM. And they were going on and on about, the complications of it and the challenges and all these different things. And all I could think about was, and I'm huge on metaphors, so brace for that. I was thinking about a bowl of fish hooks, because there is a great way to think about when we are looking at account-based marketing, when we are looking at marketing from the very high level that leaders who we often go to for ABM budget are looking for. It's a bowl of fish hooks. If you try to take one piece out for sales, you try to take one piece out for marketing, it's actually very difficult to do. And all those fish hooks, when you try to remove one, it pulls another one out. So in fact, when you get into that buying journey, when you get into a journey where you are trying to encourage people to look at tools, to look at your MarTech stack, to grow and innovate for digital marketing, you really do run into a bit of this, which if you are sitting in your chair and you're thinking, I'm just getting started in ABM, I'm just getting started in sales, I'm just getting started in marketing, then this might be a little intimidating. But if you are a seasoned veteran or someone who's worked in marketing, you know this all too familiar. So there are so many different things before we even get into the actual technical tools and platforms and solutions that serve ABM. There are all these different buy-ins from the organization that have to happen, right? And I think that there are a host of questions that actually come in to Precursor before you are even looking at that tech solution, right? So from the very beginning, there's the problem identification is, why are we doing ABM? And that sounds like a loaded question, right? But why are we doing ABM? What is the purpose? What are the requirements for the work? When leadership says, you know, when your CEO charges in and says, hey, we're going to do ABM today, what does that really mean to them? Are the definitive codified examples of what they would deem success with account-based marketing the same as yours, or the same as the person next to you, or the same as the, you know, the CRO or RevOps lead or the VP of sales? Because sometimes those things are actually very different. So that centralized way of communicating with each other, I always want to throw that out right at the beginning. Problem identification, when the executives come in and say, hey, we want, as an example, a land and expand in APAC, and we want to target, here comes account-based marketing ask, we want to target that area. We want to focus on certain segmentations. We want to have everything as a centralized source in our CRM. We want to be moving into account-based marketing. We want a full funnel view of the entire life cycle from first lead on a form fill all the way through closed won, and then leveraging that into upsell, adoption, and retention. And that's a tremendous ask if you really think about it. And these different journeys, identifying the problems, what is the scope, what is the requirement of what we're talking about, and then all the subsequent conversations, I think doesn't get enough credit when trying to figure out what you want in your ABM tech stack. And what that buying journey means really for the advocate who's going to have to go back to the organization and say, what are the requirements? What's the scope of this? Are we a 2-person team? Are we a 200-person team? You know, who is going to be the evangelist and the person driving adoption? And then who is going to be the person who signs on the dotted line, right? Who says, okay, I'm making the purchase decision. I'm going to sign off on this. Is it your director of marketing ops? Is it your senior VP? Is it your CTO? So I think all of these different things actually shape the precursor to the conversation around the actual technology, because believe it or not, I'm sure this gets said a lot. The idea of the technology being like that silver bullet and solving all the problems, that isn't it. Most of the time, the tech won't solve what the people can't address. So I think it's just a tremendous part of the conversation. So moving over to this slide, I did want to also address something, which is analytics maturity. Now, you might be wondering, why are we talking about analytics when we should be talking about, you know, account-based marketing, and like, I want to hear about demand-based, and I want to hear about, you know, what HubSpot versus demand-based versus 6 Sense. But I think that these, again, are a big part of the dutiful work that has to happen, because there are questions inside your organization that have to be answered, right? The scope, the requirement, who's going to own this technology platform, who's going to administrate it, implement it, operate it, do the day-to-day, and then also do the reporting that's getting pulled out of it. So again, if you're a 2-person org, that question gets answered pretty quickly. But if you're an enterprise, or like coming out of SMB mid-market into enterprise, it can be a little bit more of a bowl of fish hooks, right? Well, I'm not really sure who that belongs to. And so I think that understanding where your business sits in this analytics maturity model is imperative, because the minute you would implement ABM, the minute you would have a platform or product or solution that allows you to do account target function, you know, it's a centralized source, you're looking at full funnel views, et cetera, this is going to input a lot of that. It's going to affect what you're looking at. Because if you're here at the beginning, where everything is just hindsight analytics, where everything is looking just backwards, it's going to be a little tough, because you're going to need someone who's able to say, you know, let's look at targets. Let's look at accounts. We want to be forward looking. If our buy cycle is 6 to 12 months, then we know that we have to predictively have XYZ lead. We have to have XYZ conversions in order to hit this revenue goal, which at the end of the day is going to be what digital marketing and demand gen professionals and sales professionals who use the ABM platform are going to be focused on. Guaranteed, if you walk into that C-suite meeting, the first thing that comes out is, are we getting return for usually these tremendous investments? So I think if you can say, hey, look, we're already using predictive analytics, we have modeling, you're a 200 plus enterprise level organization, we're the size of Nike or Under Armour or, a very large organization, then you should feel secure in saying, yes, you are mature enough to say account-based marketing is for you. But if you're still all the way at the low end, where really everything is retrospective in hindsight, it can be a little challenging to say this tool, whatever that account-based marketing tool is going to solve those things, because it really is an internally facing machine. And when you start to put technology on top of immaturity, it can be really challenging. So let's go into it. So if we are looking at account-based marketing tools, where to start? That's a great question. I'm sure literally everyone here, hey Scott, I'm sure I just did the same thing, don't worry. I'm sure everyone here has seen those incredible visualizations where it looks like a mosaic, right? You're looking at it and there's like 6,000 vendors. The MarTech world, the vendors, everything from personalized AI chatbots to demand generation to, ABM, et cetera. There are all these different tools, and each of those tools eventually have a tie-in. Hopefully, I've got my fingers crossed for you, into your one true source of knowledge, right? Your CRM that you would be pulling your performative reports for, and then obviously rolling that up to leadership to say whether, am I being effective? Is this department, are we being effective? So this is, don't be intimidated by it, but this is a great kind of just eye chart to show you that there are different areas that some of these tools may fit best into, right? So as an example, I'll go straight to the middle. We'll look at Drift. Now, Drift is something that I've actually used in the past, and I'm sure most of you are moderately familiar with them. They're a chat tool. They have the ability to, be embedded. It can be these great playbooks that guide people through self-educating when they come to the site, propagating content to them and stuff like that. If you are a small organization, right, we'll go back to that 2 to 3 person team, or for some of you, and I am definitely one of you, who have been on a 1-person, air quotes, ABM team, I think the Drift is actually a great solution. So you're looking at it and you're thinking, look, we don't have a 10-person ops team. We don't have, 55 people who can manage marketing, who can manage any of our MarTech stack. You want to say, sure, Drift would be a good solution. Now, if you are a huge enterprise level organization and you have like a 10 to 15 person team, and they are going to be sourcing, there's BDRs in there, there's SDRs in there, there are windows tied into your Calendly that are automatically creating appointments from that tool. You might want to be looking at something that is a better fit. So those questions that prefaced me showing you, this tool base and what these these foundational technologies are, those will inform, if you're throwing a dart at this and saying, where should I be? Those questions will actually help you get to the answer, right? Because some of these platforms, I'll use Demandbase as an example, because I've used Demandbase extensively. Demandbase will require more than just one person at the helm, right? You're going to have proactive, unless, don't worry, I've seen plenty of people do it alone. I'm just saying that if you don't want to burn out, if you don't want to be pulling your hair out at 3 a.m. with like sitting there with sales and trying to shake them and say, show me your target accounts, you're going to need more than one body in the room, right? So you think about Demandbase as an example. You have that as personalization. You have it as being able to, with some of their AI related features and ML related features, to give curated custom content to folks. So if you have, for example, when I was at Blackline, you have someone come to the website, we identify their known IP, we know who they are, they're in our system. Even if they're not in our system, we're able to see what industry they're pulling from, right? And that's integrating with things like Zoom Info or Dun & Bradstreet or all these other different tools that are tied to our CRM that do data enrichment. So the person comes to your website, Demandbase is able to say, look, we know they're in the oil and gas industry. And immediately all of the marketing teams work. And this is why I'm talking about, enterprise level corporations where you have a person who's writing the content and building the landing page and personalizing the content and has 50 different verticals that they own. They bring them into that page and it's extremely curated, right? It's specific to their journey. And when we did use demand-based, what we saw was significant, like 60-70% increase with people converting on that page when it had personalized information that was specific to their industry or their vertical or even their role. If we know we had outreach going out to, for example, CFOs, CTOs, CDOs, we would have a page for each of them, and demand-based had the intelligence, the enterprise level intelligence, to bring folks into that page and give them an extremely targeted, laser sharp bit of content that was created just for them. Now, if you are sitting there in your seat and you're a 1-person or 2-person team going, wait a minute, that's like 50 web pages. That's if I'm sitting here and counting the kickback email and the thank you email and all this other stuff, that is a tremendous amount of headcount that usually supports those different things. So you might, instead of saying demand base, and again, those precursor questions, how big is your org? How mature is it? How many folks are operationally helping you? Might funnel you back into HubSpot, which is something I see a lot with SMB mid-market companies or small, for example, nonprofits that have limited headcount resources and don't necessarily have like an extensive group of people creating account-based marketing, assets, et cetera. So I think that when you think about where to start, and this will be different for every person on the call, the size of the organization, the maturity of the organization, how many stakeholders you're going to have to go through to get to yes, what is your budget, what is your timeline, who's going to own it, who's going to be executing, and who is measuring success, and then reporting back to leadership to say whether or not that investment actually did have a result. And a great example on how to do that, by the way, if we're thinking about this from a high level, and I'm going to use this example again because we're talking about enterprise experience I had at Blackline, is before we could get buy-in for this tremendous budget that we were planning to leverage with demand base, I sat down and said, there's no way I'm walking in to my C-suite and saying, please give me 6 figures or please give me XYZ amount of money to invest in this platform and just trust me that I know what I'm doing, right? You know that you have to come in with data. You have to be armed with some proof of effectiveness and of concept. So the best way, in my opinion, to get, like, say, for example, you're coming through these tools, you're choosing the one that's right for you. You know that it's good for your size. You know you have the teammates who can, hold this up, who can operate underneath it, and you're ready to like cross that finish line, right? Sitting down and saying, this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it is huge, right? So moving forward, I'm going to bring you over here because I think when you get that buy-in, it's going to have to come from provable data and pilot. So the idea of a pilot is something that I talk about quite a bit because I feel like testing the waters and being able to say, we did a pilot, for example, where we brought those folks into the gas and oil page versus like A/B tested a non-curated personalized page. And the efficacy was extremely clear. 60 to 70% more folks converted on that page. You can bet that C-suite's ears are going to peak, like they're going to perk right up, and they're going to be super interested in what this tool can do. Because if you've tested it across a couple different pilots, you have the data to say it's not an arbitrary emotion-based decision. I don't happen to know the AM at that company. I'm not getting a spiff. Like, this is truly going to be transformational. And I know it's a good fit. I've done my research. I know our maturity, who's owning it, how we're going to measure success. Running that tiny pilot and testing those two things against each other armed us with enough data to go in and get to yes with the budget. And then when you get the yes to budget, you come in and you add it to your ABM tech stack. And then you have it as a tool that will allow you to do smarter, more intelligent activities. So another thing that I feel like when we look at, measurement, infrastructure, account selection, engagement, sales enablement, whatever it is, whatever tool it is that you're going to be using, whether it's demand-based, HubSpot, 6sense, et cetera, you are going to need to make sure that you have a checkmark box for like each part of that ecosystem that we're looking at. Your ABM tech stack is really going to inform what we're looking at. Does it work with a CRM? Are we able to, for example, with Drift, have live chat? Does that work with the tool? Are we able to do things like ABM and testing optimization? Like if we're putting one pilot out and we didn't think it did well, what can we do to go back, iterate, and improve upon it? Does it have data analytics? Is it purely retrospective? Can you do predictive modeling? Are you going to be able to give your C-suite or your board members a very clear view of effectiveness? If they want a complex high-level report, are you going to be able to pull that out? And then lastly, of course, sales enablement, which I can't emphasize enough. Like, sales is going to be a huge part of your ABM tool choice, whether you want it or not. And I know there's traditionally a huge chasm with marketing and sales, but I think that if you reach across the aisle, and you will have to, because you will be married to sales with account selection, targeting, identifying contacts and prospects who will be a part of that, and then effectively putting together those top level targets and aiming at them, whether by persona, vertical, revenue, company size, etc. Like, you're going to have to be a huge part of that. And by proxy, you become a part of sales enablement. Because we talk about, can this generate insights for accounts? Will it provide sales intelligence? Like, what point of saturation do we have on the APAC region where we're trying to do a land and expand? And it helps them position their outbound more intelligently. So you really do need to make sure the platform and tool that you choose that you bring through the pilot and you have proof of that effectiveness, that it does these things. And then, of course, lastly, for every marketer, engagement, right? Are we able to see all the different forms of activities that we're spending money on, whether it's personalized ads, full funnel views, all of these different things? You really do kind of need to make sure you have a check mark box in each part of these, because at the end of the day, the person who says, we are going to do ABM, and I've made the decision, I did my homework, I know which one of these tools works best for me, they are going to be the one who has to answer for that. So I encourage you to be that advocate and that owner, because truly no one else will do it for you. At the end of the day, you're usually that marketer, that leader. You're the one who has to pull it across the finish line. So I always try to make sure you have the bigger picture, right? It's not just like, cool, I heard demand base was great, I'm going to get it. Like, you want to make sure you're saying, how big is our org? What do we need? What is this for? Who's asking for it? Are they data literate enough to say, like, this is going to be what we need? Is there a buying committee who has input into that? Your VP of sales, your VP of analytics, anybody who would be using a platform, you want to make sure you have organizational buy-in, because there's nothing worse. And I'm sure everyone on the call has been through this. Or if you haven't, congratulations. There's nothing worse than getting an expensive tool that simply doesn't get adopted, right? It doesn't provide any, insight into what you're doing. It doesn't give you answers for business intelligence in the way that the organization is asking for, which is why the homework that comes before platform is huge. And I did want to just add two quick things in here, by the way. Value. When we're looking at these 5 V's of data, if you've never seen this before as a marketer, I encourage you to print it, put it in your virtual cubicle, hang it in your kiddo's wall, wherever it is you're spending your time these days. Because when we think ABM, when we think technology platform product solutions that are allowing us to do, account targeting functions and having a centralized source that works with our CRM, in the back of your mind, all of that lives in data. So those 5 V's, like, how we're doing business processing, how we're processing our information, how we're acquiring and enriching data that allows us to have better account targeting, and then what that data, where it's coming from, is huge. So I think, like, being able to have this in your peripherals is going to be pretty important, because, again, the solution won't solve the problems. Only the people in the organization can do that. And to the earlier point, there truly is no silver bullet. It would be like saying, everybody needs shoes. Well, when you think about the tech that you're buying, is it a running shoe? Is it a high heel? Is it, a ballet shoe? Like, what are you going to be doing with the solution is going to inform it in the same way that you would be thinking about that metaphor. And I think when you look at how we're processing data, how the groups put together data, and how they're thinking about the effectiveness of ABM, regardless of the technical solution or platform, you really, at the end of the day, want to be able to say, we are doing a better job at saturating the market, at engaging contacts, prospects, current clients, driving upsell adoption, and then have all of that in your pocket. And at the beginning of it, have that organizational buy-in, because I think it'll save you a lot of headaches in the long run. And I'll end on that note, because I really do feel like if you do your homework ahead of time, if you are intelligent and honest with the organization about where they think they are in maturity, And sometimes you'll get varying answers. I will throw that out there. You ask the VP of sales where they are analytically. You ask the VP of RevOps. You go in and you're talking to VP of CS. Each person's going to have a different vision of that, right? And each person's going to bring bias into the decisions that go into your purchasing. And as that first slide shows, it can be a wild journey deciding what platform or solution to use. So I encourage you to do your homework. Make sure you get organizational buy-in from the top so that people can't come back after the fact and say, I didn't want that anyway, right? You want to make sure you're all in it together and know that it's usually a top-down initiative. So leadership would have to be bought into it. And you as the marketer or you as the demand gen professional or whatever it is that your role is can actively work as an advocate that once that platform and solution is purchased, you're able to go out, evangelize it, continue to drive adoption, encourage people to use it, and then obviously impact your bottom line. And at the end of the day, I really do feel like that's something all marketers want to do, right? Be able to show effectiveness. That's not just like we did good, but we did great. And I have the data to support that effectiveness. So sorry. So awesome. Hopefully that worked.
Oh, thank you so much, Brandee. Awesome. Thank you. And well, I think you proved the point that, there's so much technology you need to run in order to get an ABM program running effectively. So definitely room for a RevOps function here.
Yes.
So, awesome.
Yeah. I feel like that buy-in is such a huge part of it that people gloss over. And when you go through the buying process, and I'm sure most people on the call would have done this, it really is like 2 steps forward, 7 steps back, back and forth with accounting, back and forth with C-suite, back and forth with your IT team, pen tests, everything from pen test to budget. And usually the marketers own that, right? They're the ones who have to chase it. So I encourage them to do the homework before they come to the table, run the pilot, have the data, be able to prove it's effective, and then get that buy-in.
Yeah. Well, this is a big topic, ABM, technology stacks and all that. And I'm so thankful for all the insights you have there. I think we should continue this dialogue in our podcast at some point when you have a half an hour over, because there's so much to discuss here. And
I know, and I was like, I'm running at like an ADHD breakneck speed here. So I apologize to anyone that this is like literally Manhattan speed here. But I was like, TikTok, I want to stay on time for the ladies, so I don't run it over. I'd love to do the podcast. Yeah, absolutely.
And we can save the questions for the podcast and have everybody to check that out. But thank you so much, Brandee. That was awesome and really interesting to hear all your insights there. So have a great day in New York now.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye. Okay, we're moving on. And from one marketing technologist to another, we have the pleasure here to have Scott Brinker with us. And Scott, it's so good to have you with us. We're really happy to have you with us here today since we have had the pleasure to have you on our podcast. But the first impression of you, Scott, it was in a conference in Stockholm, maybe in 2015, 16 there. And that was the first time I came across you when you presented the Chief MarTech, Marketing Technology Landscape. And I said, who is this guy who profiled 4,000 marketing technology companies and put them into categories? And he's fantastic. So all the way back since then, I've been a big fan. And I must admit, I've stolen a lot of your insights and content to my webinars and, referred hopefully to you as well. But there's a lot of good content there, Scott. So happy to have you with us here. Are you calling in from Boston today?
I am from Boston, and thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, great. And today you're working on HubSpot as VP Ecosystems as well.
Yes, my day job is all about MarTech at HubSpot, and I come home, I have dinner, and I spend all my evenings and weekends doing Chief MarTech. So it's like MarTech 24/7. Very boring dinner guest.
Well, it's great, and I know you have a lot of interesting thoughts here to share with us. So take it away, Scott.
Awesome. All right. Yeah. Wow. If you thought that last session was ADHD speed, brace yourself here. But what I want to share with you today is a model for thinking a little bit more broadly about the new rules of marketing technology and operations. As mentioned, I basically all MarTech all the time. Been studying this industry for, wow, nearly 15 years at this point. And yes, unfortunately, I am the person responsible for this crazy eye chart, of 8,000 different marketing technologies out there. I mean, when I first started mapping that out in 2011, I remember finding 150 of them and thinking, oh my goodness, that's a lot of marketing technology. How do you even keep track of all of that? Now we look back at those, oh yes, it's the good old days when we had the horse and buggy for our marketing technology. The just exponential growth in the industry has been, in many ways the best of times and the worst of times. So much innovation, so much opportunity, but quite a challenge just to even get your arms around it. And so, people often ask, like, okay, well, how do you think about this strategically? And there was this tweet by Doug Davidhoff, a friend of mine, who I kind of like the way he framed it, where he's like, okay, well, the difference between those who are successful at this and those who struggle is really focus and plumbing, which I think is actually true. Although I'm not entirely sold on the plumbing metaphor, because I don't know, what it is somehow implying we're doing in marketing doesn't feel right there. So instead, I'll give you this framework of the 5 rules of marketing technology and operations. And they start out straightforward enough, right? Okay, well, centralize everything you can. Automate everything you can. So far, so good. Then decentralize everything you can. Humanize everything you can. And embrace continuous change. Now, if you're looking at this and thinking to yourself, okay, wait a second, what? First of all, that's the natural reaction to have for this. Augie Ray, who's a distinguished analyst at Gartner, when I'd shared this with him, he had said, you just put automate everything you can and humanize everything you can, 2 places from each other. I can't decide if that's funny or sad. Okay, well, thank you, Augie. To which I might push back and say, hey, listen, the test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold 2 opposed ideas in mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. And so I want to push on this a bit about thinking about centralization and decentralization and automation and humanization and the degree to which actually these do blend. So centralization and decentralization, like you normally think more of one means less of the other. But in marketing technology, we see so many examples where doing one also enables the other. Probably the easiest example is content management systems or, digital experience platforms or your website, which are very much centralized platforms, for content repositories and brand approved templates and workflows. But at the same time, they tend to open up this ability to contribute content and distribute content through a variety, of sources and destinations. And so centralized control, but supporting very decentralized content marketing capabilities. Customer data platform, same thing, a centralized, system for your customer data, CDP, CRM, but at the same time, these platforms are integrating with more and more other sources of data, both bi-directional coming in, going out, so a really strong CDP or CRM is also enabling more decentralized tools to work effectively. Could see this with Google Sheets. We can even see this with something called APaaS, which stands for Application Platform as a Service. We'll talk a bit about that in a few minutes. So you kind of can get both centralization and decentralization at the same time. What about automate and humanize? Well, it's fascinating how this is often 2 sides of the same coin. There's the Disney movie Fantasia, my goodness, like 80 years ago or something at this point. And then, one of the final skits, like Mickey Mouse is the apprentice, the wizard is away, he uses the wizard's wand to get the brooms to start doing his chores for him. And the thought is like, oh my goodness, automation is amazing. This is wonderful. Until all the brooms keep doing the same repetitive motion over and over and over again at scale. And all of a sudden, that exact same automation becomes a catastrophe. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't know if this would ever happen in marketing. It's not like we would let some sort of automation just run amok and, cause all sorts of problems. But if you've ever been on the wrong end of a automated nurturing campaign, you might you might say, well, actually, no, this can happen. And so this is really where things get interesting, is as we're leveraging automation at so many different levels in our digital businesses these days, we really do need to frame this in, are we leveraging automation to make things efficient for the company, or are we making things more efficient for the customer? And if we think about this as a 2x2, in the lower left corner, there's plenty of things that are neither efficient for the company or the customer. And the technical UX term for that is crappy. We don't want that. Obviously, what we want is the upper right corner of things that are efficient for both parties. That would be awesome. Interestingly, there are plenty of cases in business where things might not be efficient for the company, but we still want to engage in them if they are efficient and delightful for the customer, because that's how we win customers and brand loyalty. The one that gets scary is the one in the upper left, whereas particularly so many automation technologies are created with an internal mindset and internal metrics, the performance and, efficiency gains. But if we lose sight of the impact that has for customers, well, yeah, you can, you get the nurturing campaigns from hell that happen in that case, and so one of the responsibilities I think marketing operations and technology leaders really need to take to heart is to be the champion to make sure that even as we're driving greater automated efficiency for the company, we're making sure that the impact and the effects for the customer continue to be a net positive. There's a saying from the Scouts, like the map is not the train. Like, what's on paper and what's actually in the real world don't necessarily agree. We can kind of adapt that and say the map marketing automation platform is not necessarily the customer, right? Just because we have this data that we believe represents the customer, it is not the actual customer themselves, and just like the Scouts would advise you that when the map and the train disagree, trust the terrain. Like if the map says walk straight ahead and you're looking at a big cliff, yeah, use good judgment. The same thing just needs to be in, marketing tech, that when the marketing automation platform and the customer disagree, make sure you're trusting the customer. So as we try and look at balancing centralization and decentralization and automation and humanization, I actually look at this as a 2x2 as well. And I'd like to just go through these quadrants of how we think about, scale and centralization, agility and decentralization, the people dimension and, the human side of things, and the technology dimension for automation. And in this 2x2, you can sort of say the upper left is about efficiency, the upper right is about innovation, the lower left is about brand, and then the lower right is really about how we deliver authenticity with that brand. So what are some of the things you do in each of these quadrants? Well, the centralization and automation is kind of where we classically think of marketing technology and marketing operations having its greatest impact, right? It's, standardizing on common tools, standardizing the common data structures, standardizing the processes of how things flow, thinking about platformizing our capabilities, all very good stuff. This is where MarTech stacks, we tend to think about them in here too. And if you're a fan of MarTech stacks, graphics is, some of us are for some strange reason. If you Google MarTech stackies over the years, hundreds of companies have sent in these illustrations, a slide illustrating their MarTech stack, the tools they use, the way they think about it. Over time, actually, some amazing companies like Microsoft sent in, their illustration of their tech stack a couple years ago, and it's just, again, you take all these things with a grain of salt, but it's interesting to look at how it's not just about the tools, but it's really about that framework of how do we connect these different pieces together. And so there's a big role to be played there in that centralization and automation with technology. But then things start to get interesting when we slide over to the right and we look at the decentralized capabilities we want to support. And this is about empowering local experiments and workflows. In some cases, it's about supporting BYOT, bring your own tools, for specialized needs or different regions that have different capabilities they require. It's thinking about how you federate data, not just centralize data. And then perhaps one of the most interesting trends happening right now in MarTech is the support for citizen developers, citizen data scientists, citizen integrators. This is all about the low-code, no-code world that you've almost certainly been hearing about. And I find this stuff so fascinating. Another Disney Pixar movie, Ratatouille, about the rat that became the famous Parisian chef. There's this book in the movie, Anyone Can Cook. And what I want to suggest to you is the way MarTech is evolving is we're getting to a place where almost anyone can develop or integrate or analyze. And if you're dubious about that, I'd like to just walk you through something here. So let's look over time at the amount of app-like creative functionality that the average marketer has at their disposal. And it starts with Excel. So if we were in person right now, I'd be asking you to raise your hands, like how many of you know how to use Excel? I'm guaranteeing 99% of you do, right? I mean, this was MarTech. This was the original MarTech before there was any other MarTech. Marketers are incredibly adept at leveraging spreadsheets to do all sorts of management and operations tasks. Well, the next step in that journey were things like Google Sheets, and making things like Excel interactive so that we could share, multiple people working on the, docs at the same time. But with Google Sheets, it was interesting too, because Google connected this to other apps in the Google suite, such as Google Forms, a really simple way that lets you publish a form out on the web, collect data, and then pipe that data, into your Google Sheet. When you think about this, this is now starting to become a very, very simple app, right? You have a very simple UI that collects information on a form and it stores it in your database, of your Google Sheet. Then we get to these tools, the integration platform as a service tools, things like Workato and Zapier and Tray and Automate.io, a whole category of these folks. And, you take something like Zapier and it's awesome because now you can take, triggers from almost any of your MarTech tools and use data that gets captured from those triggers and then feed it into other tools such as Google Sheets. And then for that matter, you can take things that come into your Google Sheet from, say, a Google Form, and you can have that be a trigger that then sends data to some of your other MarTech apps too. So now you've got like a little UI, you got a little database, and you've got a little bit of back-end processing logic. And now the world has gone crazy with these things. If you look at stuff like Airtable or AppSheet by Google or Smartsheet or Salesforce Lightning Object Creator, if you can create a spreadsheet, you can create an interactive app. In fact, there's even something like Glide. If you look at glideapp.com, you create a Google Sheet, set a few configuration variables, and boom, it will turn it into a mobile app for you. So congratulations, if you can use Excel, you're also now all mobile app programmers as well too. And this is just one example of what's exploding across this entire universe of all these different tools, for app building or data analysis or creative generation, that allows non-technical, non-specialist marketers to be able to do so many low-end and mid-end use cases in a self-service fashion. All right, now with great power, great responsibility. When we look at the humanized side of decentralization, what we got to realize is here, to keep the organization moving at the speed of digital, we need to empower more people throughout the organization to leverage these marketing capabilities. And this doesn't just mean the marketing department. It means people in sales and customer service and product and any of these folks who are effectively being a part of the marketing experience. We need to make sure that we're giving them levers for empathy and intuition, in the non-COVID environment, like in-person customer visits, incredible, even for marketing ops and marketing tech people to really understand their customers and what they're going through. And there's some interesting technology that's being developed here too, like, CX anomaly detection and whatnot, but really this is about saying we've got to empower people to be able to respond to our customers in this highly technology-powered world. And it's not just marketing, it is this total customer experience, lowercase m marketing that crosses the entire organization. And then it's like feeding this all back into the centralized side of the humanity, in marketing and business, where we have to think about marketing enablement for our internal team. So we just heard a lot about sales enablement, the previous presentation. Marketing enablement is actually about helping to teach all the other marketers in your organization how to leverage these technology and operations capabilities. It's about implementing enlightened governance. Yes, we want to empower people with these technologies, but we also do need guardrails. And it's even things like, the customer code or the culture code for the company. You might not think of those as like marketing tech or marketing operations, but since marketing tech and operations has such an impact on the actual execution of what the experience is like for our employees and our customers, you absolutely need to have marketing tech and operations be connected to these broader values. And then, last, I'll just close out by saying, not forgetting at the center of this, this isn't a static picture where you set it once, and then you're done. I mean, we are living in a world of incredibly fast technological change. We also know that our own organizations, we do not change as quickly as technology. In fact, this dichotomy I've often called MarTech's law. It's like if you imagine one leg on the ferry and one leg on the dock as, the ferry's headed out to sea. It sometimes feels that way. Every company is struggling with this, but those companies that really recognize that change is a competitive advantage and they lean into becoming a more agile organization are in a really strong position to be able to compete on this dimension. And we actually saw a bunch of this happen here with, the terrible craziness of the pandemic, but the way in which so many companies were able to, from this cataclysmic event, do rapid adaptation for, what became the new digital reality. And so as you look at change, there are things we think about from a MarTech and marketing ops perspective of designing architectures and systems for change, embracing open platforms, making sure they have ecosystems and open APIs, no more black boxes, embracing agile marketing management techniques, and perhaps more than anything else, just keeping an open mindset, that there's so much opportunity if we're willing to embrace that change. So hopefully this framework of thinking about how we can get the best of all of these, centralization and decentralization, the technology and automation that is provided there, but balanced with making sure the human dimension of this stays really front and center. So that was at least my, wow, see, I told you this presentation made the previous presentation look like no ADHD at all. So I don't know, do we have time for a question or two?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Scott. That was awesome. Really, really good framework you laid out for us here. And I think we had a lot of insights from it. Awesome. So if you have any questions for Scott, please write them in the chat. And I can start there. It's easy to just feel overwhelmed as a marketeer in a marketing department. Wow, how can we ever cope up with all the things going on? What's the most common struggles you come across when you talk and coach marketing departments?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, again, I just assure every single one who's listening to this, you are not alone. Like, just everyone is in this situation. It's just so much change happening so quickly. Take a deep breath and recognize, this is just part of the way the world is at this point, and so it's not about having a perfect answer to all of these things, but it's simply taking a step at a time, every day towards how we improve. I would say if there is one piece of advice I would give, it's that really keep in mind that technology is about 10% of the equation, and then the actual people, process, culture, strategy, that is 90% of the equation. That is really what makes companies successful with this. You can have a pretty crappy MarTech stack, and if you've got amazing people and the way in which they're working together and the process is good, the strategy is really aligned, you will kick butt compared to someone who could have like this multi-million-dollar stack, but have absolutely no idea of how to actually apply it effectively. So for every dollar you think about investing in MarTech, think about investing $9 in, people and process.
That's a good answer. Really good. I like that. And but it would be cool though to say, oh, you don't have application of your Excel spreadsheets. Well, okay, sorry.
What are you think about so many processes, that marketers have to, do, and like so much cutting and pasting and manual labor and tracking things down. I think one of the greatest things about these democratized no-code tools is they really do allow individual marketers and marketing teams to just automate away so much of the grunt work and sort of take their work to the higher level.
Yeah. Really interesting. We have a question here. We have two questions. Incredible framing of the ecosystem and workflow. I'm still feeling there's a huge intelligence gap between what tools give me today and what I can discover on my own online. Any recommendations here for tools or best practices from Ido Ganor?
So from an intelligence perspective, I'm just trying to understand, what do you mean, from a data intelligence perspective?
I think it's what tools give me today and what I can discover. Yeah, maybe where should they look for intelligence on how to keep up with everything going on? Maybe that's the question, how much time should a marketing manager or a CMO put into, understanding technology development in the MarTech space?
Got it. Okay, yeah, that's a terrific question. I kind of go back to the 90-10 rule on that too. Is sometimes with marketing technology, people kind of make fun of those of us in the MarTech world of oh my goodness, it's like shiny object syndrome. Look, oh, there's a new squirrel over there. And the reality is, this isn't a dichotomy of saying oh, you're either just obsessed with technology and completely distracted from what really needs to get done, or you're focused entirely on the actual work of marketing. There's a balance between these two, and the reason that it needs to be a balance between the two is because although our strategy and process and people is really where the game is won, the capabilities in marketing technology are evolving so quickly. And if there are ways in which you're able to see competitive advantage with certain tools and how you incorporate that into your strategy, your process, your customer engagement, you definitely don't want to, turn a blind eye to that. So yeah, I'd recommend in general, keep your core stack simple. Really focus on optimizing, the process and the experience for customers that come through it, but maybe allocate about 10% over the year of your time and attention to experiment, with new tools. And the way you discover new tools is, you can follow chiefmartech.com. I'm always happy to share new tools, but, even more so, just, staying in connection with your peers, attending conferences, like this, whether they're in person or virtual, just being able to hear, what are other, marketers doing, what tools are they using for that. And allocating at least a little bit of bandwidth to continually learn. It's that continual change piece at the center of this diagram.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's so interesting, Scott. Thank you so much for that. And if you're interested in this discussion, we do have a podcast episode that we recorded, I think it was half a year ago or something like that. I think we also touched a little bit more upon the no-code revolution going on, where you can, just as your example there, do quite advanced apps with no coding experience or knowledge at all, which is really interesting. So maybe Emma can share the link to that episode in the chat as well. So that's for Scott Brinker fans. And of course, your webpage, chiefmartech.com.
Sounds good. Well, listen, thank you again for having me. I hope the rest of the day continues to go well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Scott. And have a great day. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Okay. That was Scott Brinker. And now we're going to our next speaker, who also happens to be a marketing technologist, also happened to be based in the States, and Dan McGaw, who's the CEO and founder of McGaw.io, which is a award-winning entrepreneur and speaker who have a lot of great insights into this area, and running McGaw, who is a marketing technology and analytics agency. But not only that, also the creator of UTM.io, a campaign management and data governance tool. So a lot of things going on there, and not the least, I think you're based in Orlando, which is probably a lot better weather than here in Gothenburg at the moment. Hi, Dan.
Yeah, no, hey, how are you today? Great to be here.
Yeah, so good to have you with us. Everything well in Orlando?
It's good. I mean, weather's great. I can't complain. It's not sunny today, but I'm not going to complain. It's 68 degrees, so, hotter than most of the rest of the world. So we're doing pretty good.
Yeah. Well, we're so stoked to have you with us and, hearing your insights. So thank you so much for joining us here today. So take it away, and we join the Q&A later.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. So let's see. Awesome. So today we're going to talk about how can you build the ultimate tech stack. So how can you actually make the stack for your business? But why am I the person to talk about this? Well, first, I'm Dan McGaw. I'm the CEO founder of McGaw.io. We're a marketing technology, marketing analytics agency, but I've been in the industry for over 20 years. So before starting this company, I was the head of marketing at Kissmetrics, a big analytics company in the heyday. I was also been in the marketing field since 1998. So I was one of the first people sending mass emails since before there was even mass email. Now, I also wrote the book on how do you build the stack. So if you want to get a free copy of that, all you have to do is text the word MarTech. If you're not in the United States, add that +1 415 915 9011. I'll say it again at the end of the webinar, so that way you can get a free copy of my book on how you can build your stack. It's called How to Build Cool Shit. Now let's jump into the stack, right? Like, what are we actually going to be talking about? Now, of course, what you all know is the stack has been growing like crazy. 2011 and only a few tools. 2013, 2014, 300% growth in 3 years. Amazing. You then get to 2016. Once again, 300% growth in tools that you have. 2018, 200% growth, right? Like absolutely crazy. 2020, we had over 8,000 tools. And now in 2021, we're projected over 9,000 different tools out there. And I don't see any stopping. I just see a little bit of a slowdown. So there's just too many tools. Now, how are you supposed to build your revenue infrastructure, right? Your marketing stack, sales stack. You've got to focus on connectivity. That is one of the biggest things you have to do. Now, that being said, the problem that we see everywhere is that departments are siloed. You've got to stop that. You've got to make that data be freely shared between all of the different departments. So it is really, really important that you break down those silos. Now, this is a simple example of an integrated stack. So you'll notice all the way on the left-hand side, we have Google Tag Manager. It then pipes its data to Segment, pipes its data to Clearbit, pipes its data over to Autopilot. You'll then also notice that all of that data goes downstream to Amplitude. But you'll also notice we have these recycling of data between the tools. So you'll notice Autopilot and Salesforce are connected. Segment and Clearbit are connected. But when that data is recycled, it goes down the entire data pipeline through all of the organization and winds up in our analytics tools. So we can see online actions, we can see offline actions, we can really just see anything that's going on in the stack. And it's really, really important that you build your stack and integrate it. Now let's talk high level, some tools that you just need to make sure that you have. You have to have a tag manager. If you are not using a tag manager, whether you're using Telium or Google, it doesn't matter. But you need a way to quickly deploy tags on your website. You should probably also be upgrading to a customer data platform. Segment being the category king on this one, it is really, really helpful because it allows you to collect data from all of your different products or tools, collect them into the Segment tool, and then distribute them out to other things. So now you just integrate once, and it works with all of your tools, and it works with all of your products as well, which is a game changer for you to be able to get your job done. Now, you also need to be using products like Clearbit. This is data enrichment. So Joe at AOL.com, well, now I know all of his information because Clearbit enriches it. Joe fills out the form. Clearbit then fills in the rest of the form fields for them. And if you have this integrated with a CDP like Segment, not only will that information be saved in your CRM, but it'll be saved in every other tool that you have. Now, if we keep moving, we have Autopilot, which is one of my favorite marketing automation tools. They were one of the original Journey Builder marketing automation tools, so highly recommend checking them out. Super, super powerful product, but you need to be able to visually see the process. You then have Salesforce, the big elephant in the room, right? I love Salesforce. I used to hate it because it was like the big monolithic thing. But that being said, they really take the cake because they have the most integrations. Their app exchange changes the game. Going back to what I said, you've got to be able to integrate all of your tools. And the app exchange really enables you to integrate Salesforce with just about anything. Don't get me wrong, it's like every other CRM, but it has the most integrations. Next is going to be behavior tracking. So you need to be able to properly track your users. Amplitude by far is the best product on the market for you to be able to track behaviors of people on your website. It's a product analytics and marketing analytics tool. You can use it for all kinds of stuff, but it's super powerful because it has account-based analytics built into it. You can build your dashboards. It's free to get started, and it has real-time analytics to make you successful. And if you're not familiar with Zapier, and I want to correct everybody, it is not Zapier, it is Zapier. Zapier makes you happier. You're living under a rock. Zapier allows you to automate everything in your stack. It can do anything you really want to make it so that your job is easier, and leveraging Zapier to fill in the gaps is going to be really, really helpful for you and your business. Now let's talk about this in a case study, right? Like, I love telling stories and putting this stuff so the rubber hits the road. RealThread.com needed to completely reinvent their automation to increase their conversions, okay? They needed to drive their business forward, and they were blocked by their stack. Now, who is RealThread? They're a t-shirt printing company online, but they do big orders. So not only do they have like the general sell 20 shirts, but they also have salespeople who sell 20,000 shirts, right? So they have an online and offline funnel that we needed to solve for. Now, with the RealThread stack, it was kind of disjointed. They had Segment, they had Intercom, they had Kissmetrics, but it wasn't connected to Salesforce where a ton of action was happening. And they also had SalesLoft, which was on its own island. It wasn't even connected with Salesforce. It didn't make any sense. And this is what you don't want. Now, their goal was to increase customer conversion rates. That was what they wanted, more customers converting. And as part of that, we came up with a strategy to use lead scoring, personalized automation, and then better reporting on that automation so they can actually see how they push these people down the funnel and how they can actually measure that. So this is what their stack became. You'll notice something consistent. We have a consistent data pipeline from Segment all the way down through the end of this stack. Segment rolls into Clearbit for enrichment, so we can enrich those leads as they come in. Clearbit sends its data back. It then sends all that data down to Autopilot. Again, Autopilot is able to send that data all the way back to Segment, so every single tool can actually get that data recycled. Autopilot has a direct connection with Salesforce, and those two are bidirectionally synced, so they're constantly sharing data back and forth with each other about automation and customers. And again, that flows into Segment, which then drives it all the way down our data pipeline, so everything can wind up in Salesforce. We've got CallRail, we've got SalesLoft, all of that stuff going in. And the great thing is that all of that data is now going into Amplitude and Kissmetrics, our analytics products, our online actions and our offline actions that are happening inside of Salesforce, or phone calls, or even over emails. All of that is being effectively tracked. Now, I said one of the tactics was to do lead scoring. We needed to turn thousands of prospects per month into marketing qualified leads. Now, how did we do that? First, we came up with attributes on their behavior that we could score on. So downloaded a resource or visited the builder or viewed a product, gave them more points. And then there's attributes about them or their company. Company has more than $100,000 in revenue, give them 20 points. Employee range is more than 500, give them 40 points. Now let me show you how this actually works on their site, right? When you go to the site, you're gonna fill out a form. You'll notice on the right-hand side of the screen, we are showing Segment. Every action I do, you'll notice then has a new line get added. Well, when I enter my email in, Clearbit then also sends an event that says enrichment provided. And you'll then notice there's this giant payload of information. Now, Amit, the email that I used, only gave me his email. And by using Clearbit, it was able to enrich all of that information back to me. We'll now see that all of that Clearbit information that went into Segment is now loaded into Autopilot, my marketing automation tool. And I can actually see where Amit works, how much revenue they have, how many employees do they have, what is his title, how many patents does that company have, what technologies are on their site. And then that, since Autopilot is directly integrated in with Salesforce, all of that information is integrated in with Salesforce as well. So by just getting Amit's email, I was able to use Clearbit for enrichment to backfill in almost all of his data. Now, it's not going to be perfect. And I know some folks in Europe have a harder time being able to get access to data enrichment, but it's still out there. Be prepared. Now, we get all this enrichment data, but what next? Well, in Autopilot, we built a lead scoring journey that basically said, hey, listen, if you are a company with a VP, go by this, increase by this lead score, and increase this lead score for any time that it matches these attributes. So going back to the thing we talked about before, we matched based upon attributes we knew about the person, and then also the things we knew about the company. And you can see we've documented all the different attributes in here. So that way we can see that the score is getting increased based upon that enriched data. Now, what is also extremely important is that not only we do the things about the person, but we also do the things that we track about them. So their behaviors. Okay, they downloaded a resource. Let's give them more points, right? They visited a product page. Let's give them more points. So we're using things we know about them and their company, and then also things that they're doing to create this lead score. Now, because this is integrated with Salesforce, right? If I jump over to Salesforce, you can see that lead score right there. And once I hit 150, I'm automatically going to be sent to a sales rep. You can also see that we're using scoring to track the way that people use the product. And this is really how we're going to be able to help them increase conversions of customers, is by having proper lead scoring. Now let's move on, right? We got a lot to cover in a short period of time. Let's talk about how they are going to set up personalized automation to really drive people down the funnel. Now, once we use lead scoring, we're creating all these marketing qualified leads. However, I now need to get them to become an SQL or something else. So I have to convert them. So what do? They told us a little bit of information, but we really want to tailor their experience to them. So when they sign up to our list, we say, hey, we don't want to spam you. Let us know what your role is, and we'll send you emails that you care about. So what we did is built an email with 6 different buttons in it. And then in those buttons were little links you could click to go back to our website. And they had UTM parameters that actually said what their role was. So if I click on any one of these links, you'll notice in the UTM code, it tells us where they came from. It tells us their medium, their channel, all of that. But it also is going to tell us what their role was. This now adds all of this data into Google Analytics for us. And then we can also set up autopilot to trigger based upon somebody actually visiting the website and having that attribute. So we can say, hey, did somebody visit a page? They came to this page, and then they had these exact attributes. So we have the source, we have all the information, but we're checking to see if the term is apparel company owner. Now, if we, if we see that somebody visits a page like that, in autopilot, we're then going to update a field on their profile to say, hey, they are an apparel company owner. So we now know what type of content we should actually be sending them. We don't just want to spam them, right? So we want to send them good stuff. So here's how this actually works on the site, right? You go to the website, you fill out your email, right? If you remember earlier, that then gets enriched, goes somewhere else, but the customer is all of a sudden going to get their download. They're then going to get this email and be like, oh, okay, they don't want to spam me. They really care about my inbox. Oh, what best describes my role? Okay, I'll click on that, right? Goes to the website, gets a small little pop-up that says, thanks for responding. Now that user then just moves on with their life, right? But for us, we can now actually send them tailored messages based upon their persona. So graphic designers, they might need help with writing better product descriptions for their t-shirts. Many people are printing these t-shirts to sell them. You then have a designer at an apparel company. They need to know more about how do they actually price their clothing, because they don't know a lot about that, right? So we are still trying to help them and push them down the funnel. And then last, if you answered as a business owner, we send you tips on how do you print your t-shirts on a budget, right? All business owners care about being on a budget and saving money. So we're tailoring that experience to help push them down the funnel, to help get them over to a sales rep. Extremely, extremely important. So we've accomplished lead scoring. We've accomplished the personalized automation. Now we need to talk about how do we report on all these things, because we are going to need to actually improve this reporting, right? Or improve this automation. So with reporting on it, what you measure, you can manage. If you're not measuring it, it makes it really hard to manage. Now, we needed to create an analytics integration to give their leadership team more data on what the customer automation was doing. Was it effective? Was it not effective? Where were the choke points? Where were the things that happened? So if we go back to what we had talked about with the automation, right? Somebody clicks on that link, they then come to the website, and then in the website, we save the fact they're a apparel company owner. But at the same time, because autopilot is integrated in with Segment, we have that connected stack, it sends an event into Segment that says that they answered the role survey, and then it tells us what role they were. All of that information actually gets saved in Segment, and then Segment then distributes it downstream to all our tools. If you remember that data pipeline. Now, this is Amplitude. Amplitude is a great analytics product that you should definitely check out. Now, what I can do is go into Amplitude really quickly. I can type in, hey, I want to see all the people who did the answer role survey, and then I want to group those people by their actual role. I can see when people did this. I can change the different graphs, and I can make it so that I can understand this. Now, I didn't want to share their real data and show you all the things, but you get the point that somebody answers a question in that email. It goes through the website communicates it to autopilot communicates it with Segment, and then Segment shares it with the rest of the tools. So you can see by having this integration, it's amazing. But not only does this work in Amplitude, we also had Kissmetrics set up as well. Now, one of the things that they do on their site is they have a free t-shirt contest. So when somebody comes to the site, they're hit with a modal saying, get free t-shirts. People fill this out all the time. We were curious, out of the people who enter that contest, what are their roles? What type of people care about this? Who should we not be offering this to? Now, we can see in this period, there was 138 people who actually signed up for the free t-shirts. And then if we use the dimension of role, we can actually see who signs up for this. The number one being apparel company owner. The last one being an HR person. Now, why would an HR person not care about free t-shirts? Well, it's not their money. They're buying the shirts with their company's money, so they could care less. So the insight we gained was stop offering HR people on the site free t-shirts. Come up with a different offer for them that is going to get them to actually buy or get them to move forward. And by saving this data, we were able to see that. We're able to understand the big picture. Now, with this being said, when we accomplished all three of these things, we saw a 51% increase in online orders from this company. A 51% increase because we built personalized nurture journeys. We made lead scoring, so sales who to talk to. We're able to use reporting so we can optimize the things on the site. So my advice to you is that your automation is only as good as the people that you hire to build it. So don't be stupid, build cool shit. You have to make sure that you do that. Now, what I want you to do is get an opportunity to get my book for free, right? My book, Build Cool Shit, is awesome, super, super easy and concise for you. Text the word MarTech. If you're not in the United States, you have to use a +1 for that 415-915-9011. And I'm looking forward to shipping one to you, or if you're international, actually having one delivered to your inbox. But thanks so much for being here. This was a ton of fun, and I really appreciate y'all being here.
Well, thank you so much, Dan. That was really interesting and very hands-on presentation you gave us there. Thank you so much for exemplifying all these cool insights and how you have optimized that process. And I hope we have time for one or two questions here. So if anybody wants to have something here, ask Dan something, please go ahead. And we got one question here. How much time and money is worth investing into building the ultimate MarTech stack?
Yeah, that's a really hard question to answer. You know, naturally, it all comes down to how big your business is, how much you need marketing, and how capable is your team. So, you know, I think there's some clarifying questions in regards to that. I can say the stack that you were looking at costs around $20,000 a month at the scale that company is working. But if you're a small company, all of those prices come down. If you're lower in volume, you can have that same exact stack I just showed you on the screen for $300, right? So it really does come down to volume on how much your stack is going to cost. And it also comes down to your objectives and needs, right? I mean, my company spends like $4,000 a month on our stack, but I have clients that spend $100,000 a month on their stack. So it's all over the place.
Yeah, really interesting. And how you work with this, of course, full time, and you even write books and so on with it. But how do you keep up, and how do you challenge or evaluate new technologies that might come out that might, you know, find their way into your stack, or, you know, how do you handle the whole area, so to say?
Yeah, you know, one of the best ways to be able to keep up with all the different things that are going on, I definitely follow Product Hunt and check out all the tools that are going on there. I also see a lot of tools that come out on AppSumo and follow them throughout time. But my LinkedIn network is super, super helpful in keeping me up to date with various tools that are coming out and things like that. But in all reality, I can't keep up. There's just too many tools coming out all the time, too many tools. How do I pick the tools though? You know, it really comes down to what is the team capable of? How technical is the team? If I have a team that is not very technical that I need to build a stack for, well, great. I'm going to set them up with maybe the Play School car or a Toyota car of a stack, and I'll kind of keep the things easy for them. But if I'm working with an extremely technical team, a very, very savvy team, I'm going to hook them up with the Ferrari of stacks, right? I'm going to start giving them really complicated tools. And you might say to me, well, what does that mean? Well, when we think about marketing automation, if you want to have somebody who's using an easy tool, you'd use a product like Autopilot or ActiveCampaign, even MailChimp. If you start to get a little bit more complex, you switch to Customer.io or even a Klaviyo. If you're really advanced, you then start getting into the realm of Marketo, Pardot, Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So there is different tools for different teams. And that's the first thing that I focus on. And then after that, we talk about integration. If it doesn't integrate well with the rest of the stack, we just don't use it.
Great explanation. Really good. What do you see any, when working with clients, do you see any low-hanging fruits if there's, you know, maybe they have some parts of it in place or so on? Where do you start working, and where do you find the quickest wins, so to say?
The number one problem that we see across the stack and in companies in general is bad data taxonomy. They just don't think through the way they're going to integrate and the way that they're going to name things across the entire stack. And then there's no data dictionary. You have to have very, very organized data dictionaries, and which is a taxonomy, to make sure the data is all named correctly. We even have a free product on our site so you can actually design what your stack looks like to understand how the data flows. If you go to McGaw.io and just scroll a little bit down, you'll see the WYSIWYG stack builder. Just go there, put in your domain. It will automatically scrape your site and pull in all the tools that you have, and then you can design your stack in there. But most companies don't even know the data taxonomy or how the data flows. And those are the two most common problems. You can't drive with your eyes closed. And I don't understand why people always think I can build this stack, but they never think about the data taxonomy, which is really how all these tools talk. So those are the biggest problems that we say day in, day out. If you go to our site, we have plenty of taxonomy lessons. If you go to the resource section, people use our education all the time to build their stacks on their own, but you've got to get the data taxonomy right or none of it matters.
That's really good as well. So totally agree. Perfect. And see if we have one more here. What are the future predictions for the MarTech landscape? Will the prerequisites for the ultimate MarTech stack change in the near future, you think?
Absolutely. Well, I think we're all seeing the transformation right now of people going from what I would call as the legacy stack to the modern stack, and now having a customer data platform as the hub of all of their tools. And I think you're going to continue to see that proliferation of CDPs really taking over the stack. That being said, what are the next things that are going to happen? You're really going to see a big fundamental shift in how Salesforce, Marketo, Pardot, and a lot of these other companies actually store their data. The way that companies like that work are just not good. If you don't have a field, it doesn't save the data. But if you work with a product like Customer.io, it doesn't need a field. It just saves data, you send it. So you're going to start getting to these tools that can save anything that you send it so you can use it in the future. And I think companies like Marketo, Pardot, and all that stuff, they've got about 5 years to get their stuff in order, or somebody's going to really start taking their dog food from this new modern stack where the data is able to be much more free and not limited by APIs. Like the fact that Marketo has such a steep rate limit on their API blows me away.
So interesting. Absolutely. Well, Dan, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure to have you with us here on MarTech Day, and really appreciate all the insights you share with us. And I don't know if you need it, but you will get an umbrella in the mail sent to you. So. Does it ever rain in Orlando?
Oh, it rains all the time. Yeah, from May until August, it rains every day at the same time. So I will totally get a ton of use out of it. I have a ton of umbrellas.
Well, thank you so much, and take care and have a great day.
You too. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. We are winding down this great afternoon. I've learned a lot. And I would like to just ask a quick question there. What did you enjoy most today? What did you learn? Any takeaways? Please share your thoughts and insights so we can learn from each other if there's anything we would like to highlight or so on. While we do that, I also want to mention that we also had this free HubSpot Discovery Workshop giveaways. So 5 places, 5 spots are given away to companies who want to have a free HubSpot Discovery Workshop where we can analyze your HubSpot instance and so on, and give you recommendations on what to optimize, where to build it or decrease it or whatever it needs to get done on. So just send an email there or click the link in there.
And I was also thinking, hi, here's Emily again. If there's something that you wanted to repeat when it comes to the presentations, you will have a recorded version in your email also after this event. So back to you, Jacob.
Yeah. And with that, we just want to say that thank you so much for your time. If you want to discuss with an agency around MarTech and MarTech insights, beside the speakers, of course, we have our MarTech practice here that Fredrik leads. So please reach out to us at Brightvision as well. But we can also say that we have upcoming webinars and podcasts now as well planned. We already booked the webinar, a podcast with Brandee, which we are looking forward to. So this will be topics we will continue to come back to and discuss more in podcasts and webinars. So stay tuned for follow-up webinars, etc. With that, thank you so much for today. It was a pleasure to have you. Very humble and honored that you will have spent your time with us together here at Brightvision this afternoon. I hope you have learned something and have some new ideas taken with you into your work for tomorrow. Thank you and have a great day.